Hello everyone and welcome to Helix Plays Games. My name is Richie and joining me this week is at CyberChris2077, Mr. Chris.
Hello gamers.
Hello indeed. I'm back.
You're back?
I've been hiding for the last 2 weeks in a different continent, but I have returned to bring you a great show including GTA5 Returning, a Plague Tale trilogy and the Future of GamePass. All that and much, much more on this week's XPass. Before we get into it, if you haven't already, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications kept on, so you're kept in the loop of all of the great content here at Helix Plays Games, such as our other podcasts, Talking the PS, where we break down all the PlayStation news happening on the blue side of gaming. What, Chris, I'm Luna listening. You didn't release one. So
no, we didn't release one.
We should address it.
That's a fair cop, yeah. There was no news this past month, like, realistically. We are very, very busy people. We have jobs and stuff, and we always said that we would maybe look at a cadence of once a month, and after month 2, it became very clear that there is some news. If you want, like, a little snippet of Luna listening here, Resident Evil 2 is back. Woohoo! It left randomly. We don't know why. RE3, still not there. Prime games are out for this month. Hot Wheels Unleashed. Go have fun. But aside from that, that is your Luna news for the entirety of the month. So I think it's worth us sitting down, recording half an hour plus of a show, editing, recording, thumbnail, and putting it up. So,
especially with my lack of availability, and you had to draft Tom in.
I had to get Tom back out of the grave.
So I was like, yeah, it would have been difficult to actually, for you especially, to write, record, and edit a podcast, because you already had to write, record, and edit XPass and Talking the PS. And you've got a 4-month-old daughter,
a child
who needs a dad,
and a life. yeah, and I've got games to play as well.
Yeah, so, and your usual partner in crime was busy catching the New York sun. So
yeah, and everyone was great and understanding. So yeah, we do appreciate your patience out there. We'll hopefully get some news this month. Maybe we'll take the number off the show and just put it as like a news bulletin thing. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll figure out what we want to do with that. We still want to cover Luna, but there has to be stuff for us to talk about.
Yeah.
We also have a live streams where Chris played Arkham Knight on Luna.
I did, and weirdly enough, it's doing great. It's got over like 200 plus views, so it's ticking over nicely. Pre-recorded as well. It wasn't live, so it didn't usually have that like live boost that the thing gets. Batman Arkham Knight's great. Did have some difficulty like broadcasting it in Luna, because when you go full screen, you can't do it in a web browser. You have to try and trick it into thinking it's inside a Chrome browser. It's a whole thing, but I won't get into it. But yeah, game's great, runs great. Hopefully we get the rest of the trilogy on there before Suicide Squad drops.
Hopefully, because I want to start with Arkham Asylum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I've been holding off. The other part is laziness. But our live streams should be returning to you this week. Probably have a Thursday or Friday. We haven't figured out what we're going to be playing, who's going to be on. We'll need to talk to Rob, see his availability. Is anything we want to play? But as always, just let us know if there's anything particularly you think we should be playing in the comments below, on our Discord. Links in the description. We are on Threads as well. It's at Helix Plays Games.
Yeah, Helix Plays Games. Yep. Full same as Twitter.
Yeah. I haven't figured out Threads myself yet. I haven't even looked at it yet. I've downloaded the app. I've got that far.
Hey.
Threads was one of them things that just suddenly went from not existing to suddenly everyone's talking about it. Like when I was like on holiday, I was like, I just can't be bothered to look at another social media thing right now.
You're on holiday. You don't need to.
I'll look at this when I'm back in England, which I am now. So, before we get into it, Chris, been playing anything interesting?
I've been playing. This one's for John out there in the comment section. Final Fantasy on PlayStation, still 16, because it's a fantastic game. And if it was on Xbox, I'd still be playing it on PlayStation, so have at that. And I guess that's all I've really had time for. I've been away with work. I've been, obviously I pre-recorded my Arkham Knight first look like a week or so ago, so none of that. Over on Xbox though, John, on Xbox, I've been playing Hi-Fi Rush still. Really enjoying it. I'm chipping away. I've done another 2 stages on that using my Razer Kishi in my phone on the move. And I really want to see Hi-Fi Rush out. I think it's going to be one of my little kind of like... I don't want to say indie games because it's from a AAA studio, but it's an indie game in all but developer, essentially. And I think it'll be in a lot of people's Game of the Year conversations for like whether it's artistic choice or musical score, because there's a lot of unique songs in there. But yeah, really enjoying Hi-Fi Rush, so I'll probably see that one out. And we've got Exoprimal coming this week on Game Pass. This week I think it is on Game Pass, so... probably dabbling into some dinosaur killing over on that one.
Yeah, it might be the stream this week. If
not a massive week for gaming personally, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, despite it being 2 weeks since I was last talked to you guys, I've basically played nothing. I played a bit of Zelda. I did attempt to play a flight simulator in an airport, but airport Wi-Fi was absolutely atrocious. I tried. I even tried to play Planet Alana. I was like, Planet Alana was playable, but you know when you get the weird scan lines on xCloud, it was almost perpetual. It was like almost scanning and then starting again. So it was like it didn't feel bad, but that was just annoying me. It's like, okay, I've given it a go. Where's my Switch?
Do you know some of the games that the retro games like Sonic and stuff, when they've got like you can turn scan lines on for that nostalgic feel? A perfect game to play through xCloud and a shitty airport Wi-Fi would be a game with the scan lines turned on, and it would just blend into
the scan lines. The scan lines that you would get on a CRT, which are actually moving quite quick and doesn't actually... It just changes the aesthetic a bit. And then the scan lines when you get the slow black bar moving up and down the screen. It was just like, it wasn't going to be a great experience. So I just chipped away a bit of Zelda.
Nice. I finished Planet of Lana. Finished it.
I
thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, it's one of my... going to be my indie game of the year so far, I think. We actually should have a discussion at some point about our game of the year so far, because we are now officially into July. We're past the halfway point of the year, and it's been one hell of a year so far. And I've not even had the time to play Dead Space or Resident Evil 4 Remake. But obviously we've had Hogwarts, we've had Jedi Survivor, we've got Final Fantasy now on PlayStation, John, and a bunch of other things. So what are you going to do? So one thing my dad did actually not on Xbox, on PC, but via my Xbox gamer account, he did actually apparently fly, because he's a big flight simulator fan. I've talked about it before. He actually flew my flight routes. So
that was pretty cool. Yeah, when I went to see him, when I got home, he was telling me, he flew the routes. Because I give him all my flight details, because he's actually picked me up from one of the airports. So he knew what flights I was going to be on, so he flew the routes.
That's cool. So he wasn't in a jet fighter trying to shoot you down?
Not that I'm aware.
It's like, there he is.
There was no turbulence. I had a pretty comfortable flights. On the way out there, actually, I had an entire row to myself, which is
nice.
What you want.
Get some kipping. You do. Stretch those legs. Let's stretch our legs on Xbox, Richie.
Indeed, yeah. So, Chris, would you like to introduce us to the excellently examined and excavated Xbox expose, aka the news. But before I thank our Helix heroes, you went and changed my show without me.
I did.
You and Rob were like, I'll just butcher the show while he's not here. I listened to them podcasts.
Do you think it sounds better though?
Yeah, it does actually. Yeah, but you know
what was the old one?
Exuberant, Xbox expose. But you know what? It was kind of nice while I was away to just listen to the show as a fan. I was going to do the thing where I'm going to tune in because I should keep in touch with it. And I found myself out for a walk up Mount Royal in Montreal. And I was listening to XPass. I was like, I'm just genuinely enjoying this show. So I put Talking to PS on immediately after.
Ah,
so that's good. Well done, guys.
Good to know. Because we actually have a few friends who listen to our show. I think that's how they keep in touch with us, almost like by proxy, Luke. But yeah, in terms of the content, I know. No, he listens. I'm saying he'll hear that.
You said that was like a bit of a dig.
No, Luke. I know he's just listening in the background, just like John is. John and Luke, Bible folk out there. But Richie, we love talking about video games, and it's been different not having you here because we've done so many weeks back to back. And I know we've been on holidays and stuff when we've recorded, but it's the longest you've been away for. And we've shout out to Tom for covering on Talking to PS, and shout out to Rob, of course, holding down the fort. to talk all things Xbox. Yeah, hopefully we'll get into it. And like I said, we'll start our live stream out this week. And I think I said on Talking the PS, I'm ready to maybe start a new series. So if people want to let us know in the comments if you'd like us maybe to jump into Gears or there's something else you'd like to check us out, I think I'm ready for a few back-to-back weeks of committing to something.
It could even be a PlayStation game, John.
Oh, for those who don't know, John's been in our comment section the last few weeks. He's been a lovely, lovely fellow. And apparently we're frauds for always talking about other platforms. I mean, Richie, how dare you talk about New York on your own podcast that you make and you run and you do the notes for and you publish.
I wear an awesome Legend of Zelda t-shirt, which I bought in New York from the Nintendo store.
Yeah. So we have a wonderful community out there. We have some fantastic Helix Heroes who do support the channel. And if you've made it 10 minutes into the show, that was 10 minutes you could have got back in your own life to go and play some Xbox.
And as I was about to say, our new section is brought to you by our Helix Heroes, such as in Lead, who rejoined. Thank you very much, you're awesome. Famous for the Pro Game Monitor back in the Stadia days. And you can be like in Lead and become a member for as little as 99p, who give you early access to shows such as Talking to PS, custom emojis, and much, much more. Thank you very much for your support. Very much appreciate it. Chris, the future of Game Pass. We have two people who've actually written in about this. So what I think I'll do is I'll read their questions and then we can just delve into it.
Wonderful.
So CubeApple asks, if the deal goes through, speaking of the Activision Blizzard King deal, which of ABK's dormant IPs should Microsoft focus on bringing back? And Code Z asks, do you think that Microsoft potentially delayed Project Keystone, stroke being able to play purchase games on xCloud to attempt to heighten the chance of getting the ABK deal over the line? So where would you like to start, Chris?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So while you were away, obviously, the court case finished. We don't have our verdict yet. The judge evidently wanted some time, just like you did, celebrating the 4th of July while you were over there. So I'm sure they worked difficult and diligently throughout the long weekend break, celebrating their independence. But now it's winding down. We'll have our outcome. We should know shortly where it is. So I guess the two sides of the coin for CubeApple's question is, if they do get it, if they are successful, what does the future of Game Pass look like? Because in theory, they will have a slew of titles immediately added to their catalogue. Like, let's face it, they're going to go back and pull out things like Geometry Wars and maybe even DJ Hero, King's Quest, Hexen, things like that, and throw them onto Game Pass. We saw it with Bethesda, right? As soon as they acquired that ZeniMax, for every Fallout game, and it just immediately dropped.
Well, anything that is already compatible from the original Xbox up will be probably just ported almost immediately. Some of the other stuff might need some porting, but I'd imagine stuff would come anywhere.
Mirror that across.
But Activision did, pre them just tripling down on Call of Duty, did a lot of like licensed title publishing, stuff like movie tie-ins, Spider-Man, stuff like that, which I'm not sure we'll actually see come over.
No, like James Bond, they did a lot of the older James Bond games with Daniel Craig and stuff, and I think that licensing is inevitably with Sony, ironically, who own the Bond franchise, and MGM, who are the movie producers on that with the line. I mean, so you probably won't see that anytime soon. Just like you can't buy them, Richie. I had difficulty this past week, I should caveat all. I wanted to play Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings after going to see the movie. Quite enjoyed the movie. Nice fitting end for Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones. And obviously we've got the Indiana Jones game coming from the makers of Wolfenstein Machine Games. So I was a bit hyped and I thought, where can I play these games? So I had a look on the Xbox app and it was there. There was 2 Lego Indiana Jones games. Not in the mood for a Lego game at the moment, so I thought I want to play an Indiana Jones game. And unfortunately, Richie, it's in the store. It's in the store, but it's not purchasable. So I couldn't play Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings.
It's been probably delisted at some point in the past.
Something to do that. So I had to go and buy them old school. So I trekked myself. So I've got Emperor's Tomb and Staff of Kings on PlayStation 2. Physical version, which I'll go and check out at some point. They basically look like Uncharted, but
which
Indiana
won't work
Jones.
on your Xbox Series S.
No, they won't. But I did look there first. So that was my first part of call because I just wanted to play it on my current console. And yes, I don't think they're going to get the licensing things. If it does go through, though, they'll get all that back catalogue, which in turn means like Crash Bandicoot, the Spyro games, which they do wholeheartedly own, will become free. So Insane Trilogy, Spyro Trilogy, Crash Team Racing, maybe even Crash. I can't even remember it. What's the current one that's just launched last month?
Team
Rumble.
Team
Rumble, yeah. The bad CTR.
We can split ABK into, like, literally it's 3 components. Activision, Blizzard, and King. King, there's going to be good mobile games come out of this, probably under Microsoft. This is going to be the money spinner for them. And as neither of us are really into mobile games, I think we'll leave the king part for people who for more
Candy Crush.
For more people who are versed in that sort of stuff than we personally are. We know I don't think there'll be anything come back because I don't think anything that's been a decent money spinner for King has ever left. So Blizzard, they've got 4 main IPs to my mind: Overwatch, Warcraft, Diablo, and StarCraft. World of Warcraft is still going. We could maybe see a return to maybe a RTS style Warcraft game.
Well, that's in the long run rumour being a console port of World of Warcraft, like classic.
It feels, I don't know. It feels maybe that's too. I feel like the opportunity for that has probably passed.
Did we get one and it was just poorly received on PC? Like the
No,
classic.
I don't think for World of Warcraft. I don't think we did, but World of Warcraft, I think it's mainly just legacy users using it, playing now. I don't know who's on console looking at that coming. I mean, it could happen. It could go over Game Pass, and that could be a cool way of like breathing some fresh life into it, especially with Warcraft Classic being out. So there's mainline World of Warcraft and there's Warcraft Classic. So they kind of rebooted it already anyway.
Yeah, 2019 was Warcraft Classic. It was running alongside the main version of the game. Classic recreates World of Warcraft in a state it was before the first expansion, the Burning Crusade release. So you're talking just OG World of Warcraft, but not what I'm thinking, which is it's a console version, which that would be a big announcement, I think, just for the nostalgia and like coming to Microsoft Xbox Game Pass day one.
It could do something. It might be in Microsoft's best interest, but I don't think it will be a high priority. I think you're most likely to see that come to PC Game Pass. If you have PC Game Pass, you now have the all but one expansion of like World of Warcraft, so you still have to buy the newest and do it that way, but you get your sub paid for, that kind of thing. StarCraft is seemingly still going, and eventually we'll get another StarCraft game. None of the Blizzard IP are really dormant. Obviously, Diablo's crushing right now.
They're like a Dawn Volcano. They're still active, but their moves so slow.
Yeah,
you don't really notice them for decades at a time until they erupt and something crazy happens, like Diablo.
Yeah, I would, to be honest, if I was Microsoft, I wouldn't mess too much with the Blizzard element of it. I would just kind of let them crack on, because what they're doing is largely working. A lot of controversy, but there's a lot of controversy over Activision Blizzard King as a general organisation. So maybe you sort out some of the internal problems that the studio is facing, but in terms of IP and what games they're making, I'd probably just kind of leave them alone.
However, don't be too hands-off, because look what happened to Redfall.
Yeah. Don't be too hands-off.
Get in there, fill in the team, and just make sure they're doing good work still.
But as they're just proven with Diablo, they still know what they're doing when it comes to making games.
Yeah.
So just give them a bit of oversight, but like almost like, how PlayStation kind of treats Naughty Dog, where they're just kind of like, you crack on with what you want to do. We'll keep an eye on things and help you out as you needed. Just kind of do that kind of thing.
Well, they did that, and then Bungie came in and said Factions isn't going to work, sorted out. So
yeah, but that's Naughty Dog trying to do something out of the wheelhouse. So anyway.
Definitely. And we know, obviously, there's possibly going to be some restrictions on... I mean, I guess if the deal's approved and goes through, Sony didn't agree to those 10-year deals they offered, so if it goes through, they can do what they want. They could put Call of Duty on Game Pass, the entire back catalogue, just in one fell swoop.
Microsoft
Sony didn't want the
deal. They could pull that deal off the table. As far as I'm aware, it's still on the table.
But if they win, they don't need to, right? If they get approval and they beat the FTC, they can do what they want. They own them.
I could see this maybe being a conditional win, though, where if this to go through, they have to leave that on the table for Sony to choose to decline.
Yeah, like an optional.
Yeah, you have to leave the option open to Sony to take a 10-year deal, or up to that what would have been 10 years. And I think Microsoft would just go, yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. But
I think the more interesting is the Activision side. So, but even then, I don't think it's that particularly interesting.
Again, they've committed to Call of Duty so much with most of their studios working on it. Remember, they pulled companies off, like Vicarious Visions, who did the Crash Bandicoot trilogy. They got pulled off making their own game and put onto Call of Duty support. Yeah. So a lot of it has been Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty, then Warzone, and then back to Call of Duty, and then just back and forth. So they don't own much.
I'd almost just leave the Activision part of Activision Blizzard King to just be, you're just going to do Call of Duty now. And things like Vicarious and Toys for Bob, etc., have worked on things like Spyro and Crash and Tony Hawk's, the stuff that we want to see more love go to. You take them, put them on just under the Xbox Studios banner, take the IP over them, then Activision just becomes your Call of Duty manufacturer. Blizzard just does the Blizzard stuff. King does the King stuff, and everything else just gets moved to Xbox generally, and you find new homes for stuff.
Yeah.
That's
like
what I would like to see, yeah.
In terms of approach then, back to Codesy's question, do you think this has delayed like the whole court case, regardless of the outcome, because of the CMA's pushback on the cloud gaming element? Do we think they've reined in some of their cloud expansion with Xbox Cloud Gaming and Project Keystone? Because we know it was on a shelf in Phil's house months ago now, and they came out and announced it's been delayed, it's been pushed back, they're going to work on it, see what happens with it. And it seems all quiet on the Western Front, similar to like being able to purchase your games and play them in the cloud as well, a la Google Stadia. And yet, it's very much all just mum's the word now. Yeah,
I think, to be honest, with Project Keystone, I think it's more Stadia's got more to do with that than anything, than the CMA. The CMA, like, blocking the deal on cloud gaming seemed more of a odd surprise rather than something that you would expect them to block on. Anti-compete sort of stuff, you could see, oh yeah, this is why it's going through this. But when it just came specifically to cloud gaming, I think Microsoft were probably a bit taken aback by that. But I think Microsoft in no rush to get everything people over the cloud. It's not their I think their priority as a company is actually getting back up alongside on par with Sony on games, even if Phil Spencer is downplaying that a bit. I think that is where their focus needs to be. So instead of focusing on the cloud, the technology stuff, focus on the game side of it. Because Xbox, they've got the biggest market share in cloud gaming already.
They do indeed. The CMA would confirm that.
So they don't need to push hard in this. They're already winning in that front. It's only really GeForce Now are currently going toe-to-toe with them.
But again, with the whole utility thing and the fact that Xbox games are on GeForce Now, it's not really that much of a worry. And I do think over the last 4 to 5 years, they've invested in the right places to take that slice of the cloud gaming pie, and they are now at a point where they can maybe just put that one to a side and focus their investments elsewhere. And evidently, they've siphoned off $78 billion. For this particular deal. And again, a lot of what Phil Spencer said over the last couple of weeks and a lot of his team has been, this is an investment in assets to grow our brand for the continued success of the Xbox name, essentially. And I think, it's probably been discussed in a meeting. Hell, we might see emails at another court case in another decade's time about how Project Keystone was shelved because of these court cases. But as with most things, it'll stay behind closed doors and it'll all be conjecture. But I think that decision was made before this. Yeah, I think the marketplace is shifted in cloud gaming, because when Project Keystone was announced, Google Stadia just launched. Amazon, there was rumours that what became Luna was around the corner. Things like NVIDIA starting to push GeForce Now. Microsoft to look at this and went, if cloud gaming is the future, we need to have basically a one-for-one analog to what these people are offering when people aren't going to want to buy the expensive box. Well, Stadia's dead. Luna isn't doing the numbers that people were maybe hoping. So Microsoft is suddenly a lot more comfortable in that space. And then you got things like Samsung Gaming Hub and things like that, where you can just get Xbox Cloud Gaming just built into your TV. Yeah. So why put the effort in developing another piece of hardware when it's not necessary anymore? Yeah, great partnerships. They've done the hard work now. Sit back and enjoy it until your competition catches up. I don't think it was a reason for it. I just think, as you said, out of necessity, I think the Keystone thing almost became defunct. In a weird way, how Chromecasts and Fire Sticks, because of smart TVs and casting, did they serve a purpose to other than old TVs that don't have smart features? I still use mine because I just prefer to use my phone as a remote, and I just prefer to open up YouTube or whatever I'm watching, just ping it to my TV. Yeah, but you can do that on new TVs now. I can cast from my phone to my smart TV without a Chromecast or anything. So I think just again over time, Microsoft must look at it and go does this tech need to be on a shelf in a shop? really? Do we need to put development into it? So
the only reason
sure
you
they'll
need
still do
it
stuff.
is if the performance of the built-in stuff is not good enough to run your service.
Yeah.
But I think makes more sense to optimize your service for what's out there rather than having to force people to buy another piece of hardware.
Indeed. So taking their two questions then, Richie, like what does the future of Game Pass look for this then? Are we expecting to see like a library so wealthy that it's you're going to want to pay the money just to have access to this? I don't think anyone's out there buying the likes of Starfield or the next Call of Duty for $70, £80 when it's just free on Game Pass.
I think it all pivots around Call of Duty, to be honest, in terms of this, because it might be a case of Call of Duty is not allowed on Game Pass. That might be the compromise I have to make. Mm-hmm. If Call of Duty was on Game Pass, Xbox All Access becomes for the sort of gamer who pretty much just plays Call of Duty, maybe picks up FIFA or Madden, that sort of gamer. Then Xbox All Access becomes by far the best way to engage in games. Mm-hmm. And Sony, if you're that sort of gamer, then in that scenario, Sony doesn't even get looking in my view. But
we've had our Xboxes for like nearly a year now. Mm-hmm. Have you bought a game outright yet?
Yes.
Xbox?
I bought FIFA.
FIFA. Don't think I have
might
yet.
Be it.
Don't think I have.
I don't think the thing is, I didn't expect to buy a lot of games for my Xbox. It is a Game Pass box.
Game Pass machine. G-Box? The Series G? That's what the next one should be called.
I think I have my PlayStation. It is, despite being the host of an Xbox podcast, my actual preferred console, just out of legacy more than anything. I still love my Xbox. So, and this is why I went for the Series S, because if it's a third-party game where I want to get the best sort of power behind it, I already have the PlayStation 5 right there. It's literally sat next to my Xbox.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, in shot, you can't see the Xbox, but you can see the PS5. But the Xbox is next to it.
How dare you crop out the console that's relevant to the show?
Yeah,
but
I assure you it's there.
I can see it. I can see it. But in terms of the future of Game Pass, then, if the deal doesn't go through, does this potentially screw over Microsoft for what they were hoping the content would be like on Game Pass? They were hoping to have an annual Call of Duty game going free. That would keep the numbers. If you think those casuals you mentioned who play, I mean, we call them casuals, but those gamers who play Call of Duty, they buy a console or just Game Pass in, say, October when Call of Duty launches next year. How long do they play Call of Duty? If it's every month, they're going to keep Game Pass for every month, because over 12 months, it'll have cost them, $120, £120, give or take. And yet they've had Call of Duty and everything else consequential to that for literally barely anything, without a down payment, without buying it outright. And every other game that's came along, and the Starfields and the Forzas and the Halos, everything in between, as well as the game they're only going to play anyway. So that value becomes unprecedented. But then if you don't have Call of Duty, what do Microsoft have to do to keep Game Pass ticking over? Do they take their billions of dollars and do they look elsewhere?
I mean, are we assuming for this question that they have bought ABK but Call of Duty can't be on Game Pass, or they haven't been able to buy it?
The whole thing's just done in. Like, it's been rejected. They've thrown in the towel and said, you know what? If we can't get it without stupid restrictions, or they've just FCC have straight up blocked it. That's their biggest market in America that they don't have access to. The UK has put a kibosh on it as well. So do they just take the billions and go, right, who else? Ubisoft, Square, Sega, all the people we've discussed on previous weeks.
They did go through and like consider these things. I mean, Sega basically told them to get stuffed.
In the nicest way.
It might just be you just stay the course, and Microsoft do have some good IP, and they are constantly trying to develop new IP. They just need to get some hits under the belt. Like there's a lot. I think there is a lot of pressure on Starfield now. In fact, this deal going through takes the pressure off Starfield.
Yeah, but that's it. If it doesn't,
they
have the content to keep it afloat? Like Netflix and Disney Plus struggle with like repeat content to keep people resubscribing every single month.
I think they have the potential to have the content as it is. They've got enough studios, enough fantastic developers. They just need to they need to not make more Redfalls.
The conveyor belt is stacked. It just needs to start moving now.
They need the next Halo to be an undisputed hit. Likewise with the next Gears, stuff like that. These legacy IP that people are beloved from Microsoft the next Flight Simulator is going to move the needle for them because of how well the last one's done. They're not in a terrible position. Yeah, I know they're third place, probably by one way, but they're not at any sort of risk of like demise.
Oh no! Well, like Phil said in the court case, it was like even though we're in third place, this like Microsoft Xbox ARM division still makes like 4 times more than they did back at the Xbox 360 days. So like even though they're not winning, they are still winning financially in terms of the business world and making profit and revenue. And they keep saying Game Pass is profitable, so that's as it is today. Again, it's just like the problem with all subscription models is they need to stay current. So, issue, hopefully, we'll find out soon.
I think the issue with like if they took their Activision Blizzard King money and went and bought, you know what, we're not going to use all of that money, but we're going to use some of it to buy Ubisoft. Sony does the exact same thing they've done with Call of Duty with Assassin's Creed.
I just think it won't be as impactful because it's not Call of Duty.
They'll try it though.
We'll see.
It is in terms of IP. It's considered up as one of these sort of like premium IPs. The numbers don't stack up to Call of Duty, and that's where the difference might come in the courts.
Yeah.
But I think you end up back in the courts.
But then, if they're starting to play that game, does that mean anytime Sony look to acquire someone, it's the same thing? And then these podcasts just become very mundane. Of we need to get like a lawyer involved, not for our benefit, but to talk about it because let's get back to games.
Let's get back to games, Chris.
Thanks for the questions.
Yeah,
you too.
Great questions, actually. And it was an interesting way, a different way to actually approach this topic of conversation because it's not just going, oh, and this license holder said no, and this one said yes, and so.
And you can write in with your questions too if you become a Helix Hero from as little as 99p.
Yeah, comments below or Discord server. Links in description. Chris, GTA5 is coming back to Game Pass.
It's back again, like a horrible rash. GTA 5.
I wouldn't go that far.
The rash that is GTA 5.
The game that will not die.
I haven't played this game in so many years, and yet every week or month I look at the sales reports for like the UK especially, and it's in the top 10. It creeps in there. Someone is still out there buying a copy of GTA 5. This game came out, Richie, when we were 23.
Yeah.
We're now 33, and I have a child, and we've got mortgages each and stuff, and we've been out in our working careers for well over a decade now.
Yeah.
And this is the same game I was playing in my parents' house in my home bedroom on my PlayStation 3, which you didn't own, a PlayStation 3. It's still going, and it's back on Game Pass.
It's out now, actually.
Out now, yeah. However,
July
this
the
time,
5th.
It's next gen, baby.
Yeah, it's the next gen version. Maybe this is what we stream this week. We stream some good old-fashioned GTA 5.
That's a good shout, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know where...
We'll have a word with Rob. It might be... I see Rob playing GTA 5 with us. GTA Online or something. We'll all start GTA Online together on maybe Friday or something.
Just go dick around in Los Santos.
Yeah. I've never really played GTA 5, so... I'm probably the only person on the planet who hasn't.
You'll have to buy a copy next week and play it.
It's on Game Pass.
That's
what the conversation is.
To stress, phenomenal game. Yeah. Absolutely adored it and loved it back when I was 23. Finished the campaign, did the whole stuff with the three of them.
23. Like...
Revolution. I know, yeah. I probably played it to like 4 a.m. with no regrets. But it's still out, and I haven't played the next-gen version. Obviously, over the years, online's gone crazy big. They added in first-person mode, so there's all that as well. You can buy... I had my own apartment online. I had my own cars in the garage. Everything like that. I don't think my save file will be anywhere unless it's logged into Rockstar, perhaps. But that'll be a bit of a nostalgia kick if I open it up and there's my character and I'm like, oh, that's me from 10 years ago, still in the Rockstar servers, like ready to go again on next gen. But it's an interesting one because we always say with Game Pass, like stuff leaves and that kind of like it's troublesome if you don't play it in the moment, or there is a chance like you're halfway through a game and you don't get back to it and it drops off the service. They usually give us plenty of notice though where it's due. But yeah, big surprise. One of the biggest games on the planet is back on Game Pass, and awesome.
We should point out though as well that this is console and cloud. It's not PC.
No, but cloud's a big get though as well.
And cloud's on PC, so if you want to
don't
play on
have to
PC, just
install.
play for the cloud. Yeah.
I'm guessing it's quite a substantial file size now.
Yeah, I'd imagine so, yeah.
Yeah, we go race around, we can go kill some people. fly some planes. One of the missions we should definitely try and do is see if we can, all three of us, sneak into the military compound and escape with a jet fighter each without being killed. So that's the challenge. We all have to escape that military compound with a jet fighter per person, if possible.
Yeah.
Because that 5-star rating is going to hit us very, very quick when we land on that military ground.
I think we have our stream this week, guys. I think it's going to be Grand Theft Auto. I think the other pick of the bunch for stuff coming to Game Pass is probably Exoprimal, July the 14th.
Yeah, we mentioned at the end of last week's show, Exoprimal. It's kind of one of those games where it was first announced and people thought, it's Dino Crisis. Can't wait for this. And then everyone went, oh no, it's not Dino Crisis. It's something really weird. And it was a bit of a middling response. But then as they've had kind of hands-on demos at Summer Game Fest and Judges Week, it seems to be turning around. There's like kind of weird Monster Hunter vibes that are now coming into Exoprimal where people are digging it. And it's, again, on Game Pass means you can jump in and check it out early.
The main mode, Dino Survival, sees 2 teams of 5 players compete in a variety of PvE and PvP missions, so it could be almost like slightly party game-esque without going for the cutesy aesthetic.
Yeah, a little bit more serious. It's like, again, like mechs fighting dinosaurs, so like that sounds cool.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I think there could be some fun in there. And with it being a Game Pass title, I think it's definitely one to check out, because if you have Game Pass, why not?
It's there after all.
Anyway, Chris, the $1 deal returns.
$1.
The Xbox Game Pass $1 deal reintroduced for new and returning subscribers.
See, what does it mean for returning? Because you and me technically will be a returning subscriber in like another 18 months when our all access pass ends.
Without reading the terms and conditions properly, my assumption would be if you've had Game Pass in the past, you get the first month for $1 or £1
in the Game Pass.
Yeah, when you the Game Pass when you first resub, your first month will be
right. Okay, so if you let it lapse and then you sign, it's like he's $1 free.
So I mean, it's if you were someone who's like, okay, there's nothing on Xbox coming this month for me, cancel your sub, and then maybe next month something comes that you want, re-up it, £1. Yeah. You save yourself a couple of quid.
Because this was the deal that kind of got everyone's attention, wasn't it? Like, I think we all probably all of our audience trialed Game Pass because it was like, how can I not when it's so cheap? Like, how can you not? And then the value, like we always say, the value for it's like £10, $10, and then it's just obviously recently crept up to like 12 and 15 respectively, but it's still so much value. Like, you can't deny it. Like, I would sign if I didn't have all access, I would still sign up to Game Pass now because I feel like I'm in, and I just like having that library of stuff whenever I fancy just playing or checking something out. And the fact that they get a game, like a half decent game every month. Funnily enough, what we were talking about for the whole first half of this episode is like what keeps you coming back, and like things like Planet of Lana. Wouldn't have wanted to buy it, but I played it and finished it and thoroughly enjoyed it because I had Game Pass. And I feel like it's one of them subscriptions where unless they do anything wrong, I could probably have it for the rest of my life if they just keep ticking away. Once it has Starfield and stuff, there's always something pulling me in to go to. And that's what I guess Phil and Microsoft want, right? Is that I'm the type of person who just keeps it indefinitely and doesn't even bat an eyelid at it until my finances get crippling and I think, oh shit, I have to cut corners. I'm in on Game Pass.
Same. Just reading through the comments on this Pure Xbox article where we got the story from, there's a lot of people in the comments kind of suggesting that what you can do is you can just switch off auto-renew. So you pay £1, you have it for a month, switch off auto-renew, your subscription lapsed, you get the email saying, oh, your subscription's lapsed, it's gone, wait a day, then just resub. And you could, as long as this trial exists, theoretically, you could perpetually have Game Pass, barring the odd day at the end, one day at the end of every month, for like £1 a month.
Yeah.
However, I will say your mileage may vary on that one because I have not verified this. I've not read the terms and conditions. That feels like something that could be a breach of terms of service.
Yeah.
But
I've seen a lot of people complain this week about the ratio of Game Pass as well, saying that because of the price increase, the dollar to value ratio for games isn't as good as it used to be. And I'm thinking,
it's still amazing.
Like, well, that's it. Like, even if it, like, you could put Game Pass, like, you could double the price in theory, and it's still just purely like for this year alone, for Forza and Redfall, Redfall, I guess maybe, but for Forza and Starfield and Hi-Fi Rush, that would have set you back like £150 That's more than you would have paid for your Game Pass. However, in between that, you've got access to all of Gears, all the Halo back catalogue, all the interstitial games like Exo Primer, like Plague Tale Innocence last year. You've got access to all that. So the value is indicative of you getting a shit ton of games and a back library for very, very little. To buy just one AAA game is $70 to $80+ nowadays. So,
and it gives you the opportunity to try some new stuff as well.
Yeah,
but
and yes, the ratio has gotten worse. But
some people just want things for nothing. The amount of people back in our Stadia days, I'd see in the Facebook groups wanting an account share just to like save on like a tenner to buy a game sort of stuff. It's like feels risky to ask a random stranger on the internet to share their Google accounts.
That's all right. Anyone got a login for that? I own these 5 games. Do you want to share it with me? We'll split the bills. It's like I'm not trusting my bank details to anybody.
Yeah, I get that. I do get the ratios worse, but I do actually want to see game developers make money because that way they can make better games. They have to. They're less willing to do things like crunch. They're willing to take the time more to make the games good. They've got the resources, all that sort of stuff.
Indeed.
As long as it's going back into the development into the hands of the staff who are actually making the games and not just some CEO investors' bank balance.
Yeah, and the $1 deal is purely like a marketing ploy, isn't it? It's like,
oh god, yeah, that's just
promote
to get you in. But as I always said, you can potentially game the system.
I mean, yeah, you could if you wanted to. Just like your promos for emails. Like you could go out there, waste all your time creating 50 different email accounts just to get new customer vouchers. But who's got the time? Who's got the time?
Is it the modern equivalent of AOL CDs back in when we were kids?
Yes, it is. Is you just spend the time. But it's like, why? Is a functioning adult just pay the value difference and enjoy your games, folks?
I mean, Chris, you mentioned Plague Tale.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to see in a third Plague Tale game?
More of the same, really. Like that's what I love about the Plague Tale. Like I've got the platinum trophy in both 1 and 2 now. Innocence and Requiem. Story was fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyed them in both. Story had like a nice kind of like ending in number 2. However, that world and that kind of era and the gaming mechanics of Plague Tale, it just ticks every box for me. Like it's so close to like Uncharted and like that the Tomb Raider, like that third person action adventure game with a story. And the difference I found with Plague Tale is just like the visuals, the characters, like the voice acting was superb for these two. Like the two main well, actually all of them actually in the sequel specifically. But it's just one of those games. Like, I think a trilogy would serve it well, and I do hope Plague Tale just continues and it just becomes a series. Like, I'd hope they don't even stop at 3 because I'm more than happy to have more experiences in this world. And the team of Sobo who do it, they're onto something with this, and it's been their biggest franchise to date. So just keep doing what they're doing. The production value is great, and yeah, I'd love to see it. Why do you ask?
I mean, this is a story from Windows Central, and in their What You Need to Know section, they've got 3 bullet points. 1, Plague Tale is a series of games created by Asobo Studios. Mm-hmm. Point number 2, Asobo has been recruiting on LinkedIn for Plague Tale team members, which this is where the suggestion that a third game might be on the horizon, or at least in the works. And the third point is, in October they stated they felt this entry was the potential end, but given the player reception, that could change. So they've wrote 2 to be like kind of the end of the story. Yeah. But, so do you think a Plague Tale 3 could focus on different characters? Or do you think it has to stick with Hugo and Amicia? I was trying to remember her name there.
Well, I won't give any spoilers away, but in the sequel, you come across a lot of new characters who are introduced. The team gets bigger, essentially. And there's some great characters in there. We meet some interesting people along the way, but they do a really good job at just introducing new people along the journey. And I feel like as long as you've got Amicia as your protagonist, then whoever she meets along the way, makes friends with, enemies with, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. I don't think it's not a franchise. Like they have the core crew, but you could just add one on, take one out, and it wouldn't make a difference. As you're exploring the world, I always feel like it was the world that was so entrancing for me. And I know they said there's an end to the story, but it's not an end. There is like a Marvel credits teaser thing, which is like, they're not done. They're not done. Yeah. And obviously it was nominated for 5 Game of the Year categories last year. and one of my favourite titles of last year. So it's getting some traction, and the sequel was definitely more wider known and received than the first one. So then why wouldn't the third one be even bigger? So yeah.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot you could do with it, but I think this is a kind of Naughty Dog Last of Us situation where only commit to a third game if you've got the story there. The world's there, the world's rich to be explored.
Undoubtedly.
But make sure you've got, because these are very story-driven games, just make sure you have that solid narrative to tell. And I wouldn't like a third game to feel like they've just been forced into it because of sales numbers. It feels like if you've got the story, you've got the passion for the project, then go do it.
Absolutely. It's one of them where this is a studio that I could have seen. I know we've talked about acquisition types. This would have been if they didn't go gun-ho for Activision Blizzard King, these would have been a fantastic studio for Microsoft to acquire. Like, quite a small studio, not many heads. They've got like now a track record of 2 games that I think Microsoft need in their portfolio, which is a third-person action-adventure story game.
Plague Tale could be Microsoft's Last of Us. I think it is a franchise that has similar sort of potential.
It's dark enough in some regards. There's some brutal stuff in the sequel that you're like, oh.
Yeah. The writing's really good. Like, it's an interesting concept. It's quite a unique concept. It's a third-person action, it's narrative-driven adventure game. It's ticking a lot of the same boxes.
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
But did you hear how for Final Fantasy I was saying how it really got me into it because the young lad who voices Hugo voices Joshua in the opening credit in the demo.
When I was playing the demo on our stream, I was like, I recognise the voice. Who is it? It's like, that's Hugo.
Yeah. And then because of Joshua's character in Final Fantasy, in my own mind, I'm like, it's just Hugo in a different world. He has a problem. He can't control the powers. There might not be rats, but there's something here. And for me, in the way my brain works, I was like, I'm sold. Final Fantasy. I mean, like, it helped elevate that game a little bit for me because of my love for Plague Tale. And what the best thing about Plague Tale is, and kind of akin to Game Pass, is I only played the first game because I had a small window in the big titles I was playing. I had my eye on it, and it went on to PlayStation Plus briefly. Downloaded it on a whim. Played it over like a week, thoroughly enjoyed it, got the platinum. Then I was hyped for the sequel. I was like, this goes back to the testament of like what subscription services can do. I was saying last week to Rob, like Planet of Lana, if it was like 18 quid, probably wouldn't have bought it. Would have looked at it, went, oh, looks good. Would never have paid money for it because of Game Pass. I finished it now, and if they announce a sequel, I'm down for it. I would possibly buy it as well. So there's an interesting like back and forth that happens with subscription services where I think they might have to take a hit for the first one or the second one, but if they're onto a good thing, like the third entry in this series could be like a AAA $70 title, or if it goes in Game Pass, it's value added.
I played Innocence on your recommendation, like probably on for this show, or maybe Sounds of Stadia Talking to PS. One of the shows you recommended that I play Plague Tale, and then it came to Game Pass. It might actually be. Had we already started XPass at the time?
Yeah, we had. Yeah,
so it would have been on XPass. You recommended it came to Game Pass, and it is the only game on Xbox that I have 100% gamer score on.
Wow.
Like, so that was, the biggest. It's probably It's.
And you're still waiting on a frame rate patch for the second one.
Yeah, well, that's it. At the time, I'm like you, where I'm not 100% every game needs to be 60 frames per second. But after playing Innocence at 60 frames per second, then immediately start booting up Innocence. Then Requiem, it felt jarring and a bit clunky, and it's like I need to take I need to be away from this a bit because it was just it didn't feel as good to play, despite being visually stunning. So it's like, interesting. I think if I went back now, I'd be fine.
Well, actually, Richie, as of the 21st of May 2023, Plague Tale Requiem now has a 60 frame per second option.
We probably covered that. I probably said at the time, I need to go back on my backlog. Probably basically echoing what I'm saying right now. It's like,
add it to the list.
This might be one. This might be one of them games that now I'm bankrupt that I play.
Do it. According to this article,
I need to play Jedi Survivor, and I need to play Final Fantasy 16.
Decisions. Well, you know what'll help out? A Demo Fest.
Yeah. Indeed. So we got a Demo Fest for ID at Xbox Showcase coming on the 11th to the 14th of this very month.
Yeah, I think that's something like we've not really covered, but by the time we sit down recording next week, Xbox will have had on the 11th another ID showcase, which, if I'm not mistaken, Hi-Fi Rush was announced as a stealth drop at the last ID at Xbox. I think that's right. So we could get an Xbox game dropping this week in and amongst a slew of demos. So they've put on a few demos already that we know are going to be there. They're going to be shown off. Some of them we've seen before, like Lies of P. There's a demo already available for that, of course. But yeah, some more titles, and it's kind of, I think, a little. It's an ode to the indie developers that Microsoft seem to be doing with ID at Xbox, and I like
this. I like them giving their indies just their own space, because I think sometimes in a major showcase, the indies get overlooked because you're looking for, what's the next Halo, what's the next Gears, what's the next Flight Sim, what's the next this, what's the next that, and then you overlook something like Demon School, or you overlook Sea of Stars, or The Wandering Village, or Wordless, which is the other 4 titles that we've heard of. Like, that we're already aware that are going to be at this, but there's apparently over 40 games. So it's at least 35 other games that we don't know that are going to be here.
Yeah, and some of them look fantastic. Well, The Wandering Village looks like Stardew Valley, but on the back of a giant dinosaur traversing the world. Yeah. So there's some beautiful ones.
I'll read the blurb. A city-building simulation game on the back of a giant wandering creature. Build your settlement and form a symbiotic relationship with the Colossus. Will you survive together in this hostile yet beautiful post-apocalyptic world contaminated by poisonous plants?
It looks like not Age of Empires. I had a game I used to play. I loved it. It was, Sierra Games. You'd go into like Wilkinson's and they'd have the discs on the rack, and they'd be like 3 for £10. There'd be like Army Men and Worms, and there was like some classics.
Always Worms.
It's not Rome. I feel like it's named after a city. It was made by Sierra Games, I think it was, and it was like a Caesar 3. Was that the game I'm thinking of? Caesar 3.
That is definitely a game.
Is it a game?
That is definitely a game.
Caesar 3.
I don't know whether it's the one you're thinking of.
It is, yeah, it's Caesar 3. Oh, yes, brain worked on that one. Nice. Yeah, Caesar 3, where you basically like isometric look down and made, oh my word, I had a 2022 fan remaster. Okay, I get my hopes up there for the bargain bin game I used to play. Me and my brother used to love that. It was basically Age of Empires, but it was focused purely on Rome. You'd build your Colosseum, you'd build your apothecary and everything, and your water aqueducts and everything, and yeah, wow, what a game. Sierra Game, as if I knew who made it, but not the name of the game, and then good old brain pulled me out of that ditch eventually. But Wandering Village, back to Wandering Village, it looks like that, but on top of a giant dinosaur. Just something clicked to me there, which is like, this looks fun.
It's kind of got that 2D, 3D kind of art style. It looks almost like paper cutouts of the characters wandering around the village, but then like with almost like sprite-looking 3D backdrops.
It's quirky, I like it. Coming to Game Pass.
It is coming
as all these are, I think. So
yeah,
Demon School isn't, but Lies of P, we know it's going to be huge. Sea of Stars, I think, is one of the kind of higher rated ones that's coming out. It's very like much like Chrono Cross.
It looks like a throwback to a SNES RPG. So, promising the sabotage touch in every system, Sea of Stars aims to modernise the classic RPG in terms of turn-based combat, storytelling, exploration, and interactions with the environment, while still offering a hearty slice of nostalgia and good old simple fun.
This looks like your game, Richie. This looks like Octopath.
Chain Echoes. That's another game I need to play again. That came out last year on Game Pass, and I played a bit, and then pulled away for other stuff. So I've got games to play, man.
And then Wordless is the last one. Not coming to Game Pass, but this looks like a combination of like The Messenger, but like just visually.
Wordless is a stylized 2D action platformer with innovative combat and mind-bending interpretive narrative. Players will walk the line between physical and astral planes within a shapeless world, embarking on a journey of self-growth and understanding. Featuring a great variety of enemies, bosses, and skills to unlock, and several abstract yet beautiful areas to explore, together with curated, I almost read that as custard, I don't know why, curated sound effects, and the magnificent OST composed by Belenist Grease, who wrote the soundtrack to Grease. Wordless will make players feel immersed and challenged while they walk their path to a new beginning.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks like almost like if Tron met The Messenger. And it's from our friends at Coat Sync as well, so shout out to them and Thunderful Games. But yeah, again, by this time next week, we'll have like 40 plus indie titles that have been shown off. A big chunk of them which will be coming to Xbox. And fingers crossed, we get something that drops is anywhere near as good as Hi-Fi Rush, because damn.
I mean, quick one, Hi-Fi Rush could have almost come to other platforms before Xbox's acquisition of Bethesda.
Yeah, that's no surprise. I think we've kind of discussed that a little bit with Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop, how like they were locked in for PlayStation, and you'd imagine, we know Sony were looking at Starfield as like their next potential like lock-in for an exclusivity deal. So you can imagine Ghostwire and Tango Gameworks were like also going, hey, we kind of have this little game called Hi-Fi Rush we're all working on at the same time. Do you want that as an exclusivity? Like, where does the back and forth go? But hey, it's in the Game of the Year contenders for a lot of people on Xbox, so...
Yeah, I think anything ZeniMax produced over the last few years and probably the next couple of years could have theoretically been multi-platform. Like, I don't think we need to read too much into that.
There'll have been an Xbox version.
Let's round out the show with another listener question. Hjorvar writes in in our Discord. Matt Booty, head of Xbox Game Studios, just said modern AAA games will at normal speed 4 to 6 years. Corey Barlog, Sony Santa Monica, agreed with them and talked about the big games will take 8 to 10 years to make. What's your feeling about this?
Well, to echo that, Sean Layden, on his exit of PlayStation, said that AAA games are becoming unobtainable in terms of like price and development structure costs, because they cost so much to make. Their return on investment is becoming lessened, and that hence we've even had a price increase recently. And we know actually from last week's leaks that The Last of Us and Horizon cost £200 to £220 million to make, with the staff overheads and the marketing. And depending on how many millions of copies sold, like the profit margins are getting slimmer and slimmer, and the time to make them. Like Corey Barlog, his big thing was like he wanted out of God of War because he doesn't want to spend 10 years of his life making one game or one franchise. So it's going to have a big impact. And I think this is why Microsoft are also looking to acquire more studios, because they need the numbers for Game Pass. Yeah. And if it takes 5+ years to make them, again, look at Rocksteady with the Suicide Squad game. That's like, I was playing Arkham Knight, came out in 2015. That was their last game. 2015 it came out. So the amount of cost they've sunk into Suicide Squad, and yet if we need a new game every month on Game Pass, you need a lot of studios to keep that conveyor belt stocked.
I think that feels one there. They've probably got caught up chasing trends, and the marketing team and sales team are pushing them to add features in, and just end up with a broken mess of the game, and the firefighting have to start from scratch. All the sort of chaos is when, rather than having, here's a clear vision for a AAA title, we're just going to execute on this vision right from the beginning and trust that the game's going to be good enough to sell. Yeah. But I think you're right with Microsoft buying so many studios, because that means you can produce that like top tier AAA game, and if it takes a studio 10 years to put one out,
that's fine,
because you've got other studios putting them out.
Yeah, it's a lot of planning and scheduling to hit those deadlines, because games get delayed as well. Like, shit happens, and they might not be in there. And Hjorvar points out, like, do we need AA studios? And I think, I actually think a better acquisition for Xbox might have been the Embracer Group.
I think
just for the sheer number of AA they could have brought in to pad out Game Pass.
There's almost something to be said for just starting to acknowledge some games are quadruple, because AAA is a huge spectrum of games nowadays when you think about it. Where if you added in, say, a quadruple A category for this is going to be your God of War's, your Last of Us, and then your AAA is more something like not an Uncharted, like an Assassin's Creed, which are very good games, but not quite that sort of level that you'd expect from a Sony first party sort of thing. Maybe that's where I think they're talking here between normal and big games, where the normals is more of an Assassin's Creed, a big game is a God of War, where there's that extra level of polish and all the fine details throughout the game.
Yeah, and that's what it all comes down, and that all comes down to money and how much you can spend. But I think Microsoft and Phil Spencer's goal is to have one AAA first-party studio game every quarter. So every 3 months you get that, and the 2 months in between you'll have a AA like Exoprimal, for example, or Saints Row, or something like that, or
just
whatever else they can squeeze
continually
out.
dropping on Game Pass.
Yeah, with a sprinkle of indie games on top, and like that's your ideal Game Pass month, because
And
every
then
month
there's
isn't going to be a banger.
And then there's third-party stuff as well.
Yeah, if it comes to Game Pass. You're being attacked by your blinds, by the way. They want to break free from the shackles of your window frame.
Well, yeah, we're wrapping up the show now anyway. So, like last thoughts on the question, Chris?
No, I think he's completely right. Yeah, I think they need to pad it out, and I think there is a worry that it's becoming too far stretched. And when you're planning so far ahead for the next decade of your platform, you ideally want to have that in place, and that's why I don't think, even if they land this Activision acquisition, I don't think that'll be the last people they buy, because they'll have to pad themselves out, whether it's like indie games or potential more, which is why I said Embrace, it could have been perfect for them, because they would have got like 20 plus studios, 100 plus IP, just to do the grunt work to pad out Game Pass, and it would have been much cheaper than 68 billion.
My issue with Embracer is they're yet, from my view, to put out a good quality AA game, where, you know, Double Fine have like brought a Psychonauts and was in the Game of the Year conversation. A AA game can achieve that.
Dead Island 2.
Oh yeah, I'll give you that. There's
That
more
could have been a
misses.
Game Pass title.
Yeah, there's way more misses than hits with Embracer so far. I'm yet to be fully convinced by their the credentials.
Well, they have a problem as well, like Microsoft do, is they've acquired all this stuff, but they're yet to see any output from it. Like, bar one or two titles, they haven't really seen the fruits of their labour yet to come out of it. So time will tell on that one, even though they're stripping back.
I think for something like Microsoft, if you're getting like one tentpole title, big AAA once a quarter, and then in the months between you're getting stuff like a Psychonauts or stuff to that quality and that sort of reception, then you're in for a winner. So not every game needs to be God of War. You can get smaller. Hi-Fi Rush is a perfect example. Like, this game, it came out of nowhere. Everyone loved it. It's a perfect, you know, it's a smaller title, it's a shorter title, it's a passion project. It ticks people over for a month.
Yeah.
But Chris, I think that's all we have time for this week. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, you're welcome to come back on your own show at any time. Same with our question writings. You're welcome to send them. Helix Heroes get priority, of course. And don't forget to check us out on Threads if you are in the social space. That's where we are at Helix Plays Games.
And wherever you are in the world, listening or watching this, make sure you like the video, sub to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications turned on, so you're kept in the loop with everything. I actually want to ask people, like, what's the coolest place you've listened to one of our podcasts? I'm going to ask you, Chris, first, since I've got you here. So, the coolest place you've listened to Helix Plays Games?
I think as a COVID and stuff, I've only really been away to France. So, probably on like the coach into Disney, maybe? Yeah. Disneyland, something like that.
I think I might win then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my choice. I've got three choices between Mount Royal in Montreal, the Brooklyn Bridge, or the Manhattan Bridge.
I'm sure some people went some fantastic places.
Yeah, we have a Discord where you can write in questions like Hjorvar did, like CubeApple did, and like CodeZ did. Links are all in the descriptions below. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Richie.
I've been Chris.
GG, everyone.